An Accident in Paris by Gavin Collinson, published by Welbeck Publishing, and this is a novel that you might think is set in Paris, but in fact the majority plays out in and around Soho, London, Guildford and small villages in the southeast of England. This is the story of the accident that the Princess of Wales, Diana, suffered in the Alma Tunnel, and that's where she died, and so did 3 of the occupants of the Mercedes in which they were driving, and her bodyguard suffered terrible disfigurements. Now, Gavin Collinson has trawled the internet, and there is an awful lot of information there, but I think what he puts out very nicely is that there are lots and lots of facts, but there are an awful lot of loose ends, and there's an awful lot of evidence that the story around her death, a lot of it isn't true, and a lot of it needs re-examining. So he lays that all out, and he has Mark Novak, who is a PI, investigating all the details surrounding her death. He is asked to look into this 25 years after the accident in the Alma Tunnel in Paris, and he then kind of reconstructs a possible scenario of why people might have wanted to see Princess Diana dead. And it's a very plausible construct. It is a novel that's written with humour. It's quite fast-paced, and as it gets towards the end, it gets quite frantic. It kind of revs up. It lost me a little bit there towards the end, but I think as a storyline, it's actually very, very creative. So all that he's trawled in the internet, for example, Henri Paul is supposed to have been drunk, and there is a lot of evidence that he really wasn't a drinker, although there seems to have been a lot of bottles actually at his flat indicating that he perhaps had an alcohol problem, but all his friends and family refute that. They were heading towards Dodi Fayed's flat. No, in fact, the way they were going was heading out of town, and what he bases the story on is the fact that Diana had made an announcement saying that she was going to announce something quite strategic before she died, and he looks into this and Mark Novak actually finds the people who knew her and who might be able to divulge what that announcement would be. So it's a really creative novel. It is written with humour, as I've said, and because it's a sombre story, so you have to lighten it somehow. But there's a lot of action. There are a lot of situations that Mark Novak gets himself into, and I think this is a very interesting take, a very interestingly written novel. That given that Prince Harry is about to publish his book Spare, we've seen the Netflix documentary. There's an awful lot about the royal family, so in a way this was quite an interesting addition to add to that whole wave of news items and information that seems to be coming out, whatever your view. This is an interestingly designed and written novel. So An Accident in Paris by Gavin Collinson is just an interesting take on a very difficult situation. Remember, it's also fiction.